So I call the meeting to order. And thank you. In attendance here, I have Ryan Tressel. I have Mr. George Farrow. I have Dr. Nikki,
That's okay. Seema Schneeweiss.
Thank you very much. I am Stephanie Blackman, the chair. We have had a change to the committee members. Ms. Kara Moser has resigned as of last night from the school committee entirely, and Mr. Glenn DeGravio is no longer able to participate on the subcommittee. So for now, it is just Mr. Tressel and myself. We have public comment, so would anybody like to say?
I think you need to say what the name of the committee is, subcommittee is.
I'm sorry. This is the policy subcommittee meeting of Thursday, November 20th, 2025. So, sorry, public comment.
Sure. Kathleen Trask, 65 Homeland Drive in Whitman. Apologies as I'm doing this with no notes and on the fly, but it was important to me to come tonight because I truly do believe that solid policy for the school committee is the North Star to function well. It is the North Star to promote transparency with your constituents. It guides the rulings that happen at your committee meetings, at your subcommittee meetings, what subcommittees are standing subcommittees, what's ad hoc. It is your blueprint for how to run. And again, as I stated last night in my public comment, I've not been attending school committee meetings. I have a history at our previous school district of being a member of their board of trustees. And so I am familiar with how things run. It's a little different in a public school versus a charter school, but they're pretty parallel at the same time. We are beholden to our constituents. We are beholden to the state at higher expectations and to create and live that standard. I am offering myself as a volunteer person to assist in any way possible to help enhance the standing policies. Some need replacement, some need to be rewritten, some we need to say these are MASC policies and we are not required by law to use them. MASC is a guiding resource, it is not your Bible. And so I would encourage us to design what is best for Whitman-Hanson using those guidelines. Let that be the foundation, but design what's right for us for where we are now with a standard review process built into those policies to ensure that they do not go unreviewed for too long of a time. Voted on by the school committee with input from the community at large really will do a lot for the foundational piece to build that trust within the community that we need right now, because it's a detrimental time for us. We're sitting in a place where the school committee has to remain quiet because they're in executive session, but that naturally breeds distrust with the people in the room simply because of the environment we're in. If we can take down the temperature with solid policy, we can get more done. And so I'm here to be of use, to assist where I can. Tell me where we're not allowed to speak, but let's build more spaces for the community to speak. Because it's one thing for those of us in the community to sit and complain, it's another for us to take action. And if we want to do more, we have to take action. So I'm asking for the opportunity to assist, to be something you can bounce things off of, to give suggestions, and be an active participant in aiding the blueprint for how the school committee goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was pretty good for
Appreciate
no
it.
notes.
I was gonna say, geez,
Yeah. Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is to review, discuss, and make recommendations regarding sections D, fiscal management, E, support services, and I am going to suggest that we pass over C and D, which is F, facilities development, and I, instructional program of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee Policy Manual, since Neither of those two people are here to present. So I will start with the fiscal management piece. Luckily, I guess, there weren't a ton of changes that I found that needed to be done beyond a lot of weird spacing issues on the first policy. So the first policy is fiscal management goals. And so that is the quantity and quality of learning programs are directly dependent on the effective, efficient management of allocated funds. It follows that achievement of the school system's purposes can be best be achieved through excellent fiscal management. I think that we are definitely being attentive to that at this point. So it does say that in the school's fiscal management, it is the committee's intent to engage in thorough advanced planning with staff and community involvement in order to develop budgets and to guide expenditures so as to achieve the greatest educational returns and the greatest contributions to the educational program in relation to dollars expended, to establish levels of funding that will provide high-quality education for the students, to use the best available techniques for budget development and management, to provide timely and appropriate information for all staff with fiscal management responsibilities, and to establish maximum efficiency procedures for accounting, reporting, business, purchasing, and delivery, payroll, payment of vendors and contractors, and all other areas of fiscal management. So one of the things that I learned at the Mass Conference is that policies do need to be broad. They're not procedures. They don't include procedures. I would question how much of this we're actually currently doing at Whitman-Hanson School Committee. I think that's, I guess, my major concern with this section is that we are not.
But the issue, you like the policy, you just think we need to do a better job of following it, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that is a very good idea. I think that the policy is good, but I don't think we follow it right now. The second policy is File DB, annual budget. And again, the policy itself, I think, is great. My questions were, there's one section that's the annual budget for each school operated by the district shall be developed and with input from the school council. I guess I'm wondering who the school council is. Yes.
I actually sit on school council for the high school, as does my daughter. So again, sorry to be speaking out of turn if I shouldn't be as the public. So by all means, don't be afraid to look at me and go, that's not how this is gonna go. We have actually recently asked Dr. Jones to give us the budget. We will be reviewing it at our next meeting.
Okay.
I would encourage something in the policy to have school council reporting out to the budget subcommittee.
Yeah, if I could.
Yeah.
So this came about as a result of ed reform in '93, where school councils had the ability now to look at what it is that moves forward for each school, high school,
Yeah.
middle schools, elementary schools, to look at and have some planning for what takes place at their building.
Mm-hmm.
While that happened in '93, it never truly became what the law intended, in my view, because the machine of schools keeps working. So when you look at this is exactly for your school improvement council. You're supposed to have a school improvement council. Here's what I have for the total budget for my building. Let's call it $12 million for the high school. And then you're supposed to go over it with your school council, and you're supposed to say this much for salary, this much for this much for this, this much for this. Where it got lost, I think, in the state aspect of it is that there's so much that an individual school can do, but there's also what an individual school can't do. Like they can't say when your boiler breaks, where's that money coming from? That's another piece. But I do know that Chris Jones asked, and I gave it to him, the breakdown of what takes place per school. So you have the ability in Munis to go in by location. So by location, you have approximately 8 lines that go from salary, that go to for example, like nurse clinic, that go to general supplies. I'm gonna get some of them wrong.
Facilities.
Yeah, but per the school.
Right.
Which then goes into the total, what happens. When I read through this and when I hear what you're saying, it's that's the chunk that goes to that building. And the intent was that in like, kind of like what we did, if there's $100,000 that needs to be cut from a certain site, the building administration with the school council has the ability to say, this is where I'd like those cuts.
Okay, and is it the school council? Is it a school improvement council? I want to make sure I get the wording
Well,
proper.
it's both. It's a school council that develops the school improvement plan.
Okay.
And the school improvement plan is a yearly or could be sometimes biannually thing that takes place. And on your school improvement, on your school council, you have you need like a rep from the community, you need a couple of teachers, you need a parent, you need administrator, and then together they come through and discuss these things. What has happened traditionally was when MCAS came in, and when we had like things like AYP, which is annual yearly progress and accountability, it became sort of like, this is what Desi's telling us to do, this is the budget that I'm getting, this is what I'm presenting, this is what I would like to do, but it's all budget dependent, and we're not sure where to move from there. But this could be cleaned up so that Whitman-Hanson could say, this is what happens in the annual budget for the district, and then this is what happens in the annual budget for the schools through the school council.
Okay, so divide it basically into.
I think you could. I think this group could chew on that and go from there.
If we write it in the policy a little more robustly, without being too stringent.
Right.
We can also develop accountability within the school council, that it's actually being looked at and questioned appropriately, to then have to report out to that budget subcommittee so that the budget subcommittee knows what's happening and can be alerted sooner. It's about taking what's currently a reactive process and making it proactive.
Okay. What do you think?
No, I think that's great. I think that, as the chair of the budget subcommittee, I think, like, I spent last weekend looking through all the lines, and I think getting input from the more granular input from those lines from the schools would be helpful, because I don't know, my kids go to certain schools, they don't go to other schools. I don't know what I think the first time I ever stepped foot into Indian Head was on the tour this summer. I'd never been to that school. Oh, maybe once. I think maybe my daughter had testing there once, but I'd never been in that building really. So it's I don't know anything about those Hanson buildings. No offense to the Hanson people, but so I don't know what the needs of those buildings are. So I think that's a really good idea to have the school councils of each school, whether it be an active, like you come in, or whether you prepare like a report that goes to us. I mean, whatever, makes the most sense, because I know it's obviously you have a council, so I don't know if it might be difficult to have everybody come to it, or if you have a representative come. I like everybody, so anybody can come.
I mean, to be honest with you, some schools struggle to get a full and active council.
Right. I think that would be my guess, based on just how much of a commitment a lot of these civic-minded things are for people, that it might be difficult. But if the school councils were able to either send a note, send a representative or something like that to the budget subcommittee, so that we have input about what is specifically the needs of the Conley, the Duval, Hanson Middle, et cetera.
I think that's fair, because it encourages the reporting and the proactive work without needing, too many people.
Right.
At the high school level, at school council, Dr. Jones is the chair, but we have a number of parents. My daughter is a junior. She's been on it with me for 3 years. So she's been a student rep on school council. Thankfully, in the last couple of years, we've had some faculty. This is the most robust we have had it, with representation from all corners.
That's
The
great.
first year I was on it, there were about 6 people in the room. 2 of them were students, and that was it.
Yeah.
This is the first year we have a community member that has no children in the school still being there. So I think it's difficult to guarantee we will meet the geography that we need to have, but we can say, as a unit, prepare it before you come, and send a delegate to the budget subcommittee meeting to report out, or B, a certified report.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good idea. It's
Yeah.
the layers too,
yeah.
you know.
And I will say that this is the first time I've ever been asked, or when I was a principal, I've been given a per-school report for our council.
I think especially for our current budget
Yeah,
situation.
right.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that,
Right, but I mean, that can all be handled, and I do agree that obviously policies have to be broad, because they're not procedures.
Yeah.
But then, when you move forward, you want them to at least have markers.
Right.
So that you can
So,
direct out whatever it is.
yeah, absolutely. So, Ryan, since you are also the chair of the budget subcommittee, do you think that we should implement some sort of a time frame for when that happens in your budget schedule, or perhaps you could look at that
well,
budget
I think
schedule?
my thought would be that it wouldn't be something that would be in the policy, but it'd be something that we could add to our calendar.
For the calendar
that we're working on for the budget, so that on our end, we would develop, as we develop our budget calendar, we would have, time,
Stopgap
check-ins,
measures.
stopgap measures, or something being we wouldn't necessarily outline in the calendar that, the Hanson Middle Student Council has to come on this day, but the idea of getting reports by
I was
these
just
days.
thinking, if we said, by January of each
Right,
year
like something
or
like that, yeah.
Something like that,
Yeah.
do we want to consider putting some sort of,
You could say beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of year, so that way, that allows flexibility for the budget subcommittee in their dates. It allows school councils flexibility for their meeting dates, but also gives you some sense of a guideline
Yeah.
and multiple reporting times, because you want to see, where did our budget start? How are we doing at the midpoint? And then where did we finish? Because that finishing point should be guiding your starting point for the next year.
so we have to have our budget in by the end of March is the deadline,
Yeah, 45 days before town
Yeah.
meeting, first
right?
weekend.
Or by
First
March
Monday.
31st, I believe I heard, so, yes.
Yeah, probably this year, yeah. somewhere
So,
around there.
I'm thinking that, it's gonna take time, though. I mean, you guys, the administration has to develop the budget subcommittee has to,
I believe the public hearing for the budget, the public hearing for the budget has to be, I believe, done by the first Monday in February, or something like that.
Yeah, we
Like,
always-
Wow.
there's
Beginning
a,
of
there's a,
February.
there's a
Yeah.
seminal date when you have
Yeah.
to do it. Because then from there, it goes public, then selectmen get involved, and pieces get involved from there. So you'd have to have it in line with that. And then you also, I mean, not to get too granular, but then you also have to, if this is the annual budget, and we're talking about the annual budget as part of the school council, you also have the school improvement plan that at some point we're gonna have to attack, because I don't know which timeline. There's a lot of timelines going on. Because sometimes we've done the school improvement plan, which has to be done every year and blessed by the school council. Sort of reflects what you would really like and highlights things, but it doesn't affect the budget, because sometimes it's given,
Budget's done first, yeah.
but it's already set. And now you're playing catch-up on that. So this is a daunting task. So, I mean, what you might have as a procedure is to analyze, break down, and come up with,
Right.
come up with the policy that states in the annual budget process the role and guidance of individual school councils.
Right.
To coincide with
Yes.
the established protocols and plans of the yearly budgetary process.
And what I would
Just flying off the top of my head.
Yeah, no.
suggest for those councils, whatever you all
Right.
decide for your guidance needs to be trickled down to them through their timeline.
Right,
With some sort of adherence expectation.
Correct.
yeah,
You are correct.
Because if we don't give an adherence expectation, you won't have the information that you need. It's in this situation, something is feeding something else every step of the way, so we need to create that timeline to ensure, and it doesn't have to be exact, like by the
Right, yeah,
15th
yeah.
of this month, but-
Quarterly, could be like
Exactly.
a minimum of 6
Yeah.
school improvement council meetings with dates established by the end of the first month of school.
Yep.
That says when those will meet, and the guideposts for those meetings are according to DB budget.
And I think doing it this way will only enhance the district as a whole, because I'll say the high school subcommittee or school committee, as hard as we're working, listen, our first meeting, we sat there and went, when do we want to meet, right? We all sat down and said 2 days and like threw it together. And we could be better. And so we're not gonna get better if we don't ask to be better. And so, let's ask, let's put pen to paper and give them the timeline and say what you need to do your job well, and then ensure that they give it to you.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so the next section in there, I'm not sure I'm understanding. The district agreement notwithstanding, there shall be no requirement for the annual operation and maintenance budget for the district to be adopted prior to the receipt of funding estimates from the state. So we typically get a funding estimate from the state, the cherry sheets, by January, am I correct? Do we know?
Okay, are we on the
Oh,
same?
I think-
Yeah,
DB,
DB, okay.
right?
So this, on the budget calendar, the draft budget calendar, it says January TBD revenue estimate received by the state. So it must be sometime in, you're correct, sometime in January.
So the governor releases his budget.
Yeah.
So what happens usually is that in the formation of a budget, we have to sort of take the best educated guesses we can based on the people who are there, based on what's taken place in the past, and move forward.
Yeah.
Knowing that we always have to change it.
Okay, so we don't need to put any specifics about when it is, because
We don't.
Yeah, I think
It's-
this is
yeah.
just saying, like, to your point, Stephanie, I think it is just saying, like, we wouldn't adopt it prior to getting the information from the state that we need, and then if that's, you know.
and you
roughly
can't
January.
adopt it, but you can certainly try to create it.
Yeah,
Right, but we-
right,
but-
that's
yeah.
what I think,
Okay.
that's what that means.
And when we were having times of decent budgetary times, there was the assumption, there was always an assumption when we were talking about the budget in the next year that these are assumptions based on what we knew, but the governor's, but it
Yeah.
hasn't come out yet.
All right, apportionment of expenses, I just had some grammatical stuff, which I think needs to be cleaned up. DBI budgeted spending plan, again, we should be doing some of this, that we are not, and I think that's important. So budgeted spending plan states a system of fiscal control shall be established to govern the administration of the budget and the expenditure of funds. The superintendent shall not permit expenditures of funds to exceed the major budget classification allowance. Yep, okay, so, against which the proposed expenditure is the proper charge, the superintendent shall set up and operate budget controls for all departments. She shall administer the budget in conformity with legal requirements and the actions of the school committee. Superintendent shall check the legality of all expenditures. She shall ascertain that all expenditures recommended for approval are legal expenditures. So, George, you keep saying that's the law, right? So there's no MGL here, and I'm just wondering, I am going to go back and compare all of the policies with masks policies to see if there are Mass General laws there.
Yeah.
Are you aware of it being a specific law?
I'm pretty sure I looked it up in Mass General Law.
Okay. So,
But what I'm saying is that, like, whatever takes place from here, you need the procedure that allows the enacting of this with, like, proper guideposts, whether that's a monthly reference balance.
That's the calendar we're creating, right?
Right,
Yeah.
the budget to revenue, because this is, I mean, listen, take it for what it's worth. This is not a bad policy in a sense, but what needs to come from the policy is the procedure or the process that then says, this is how the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District and School Committee will enact this.
right, and I think that's one of the things that we, again, there are a lot of things that are in here that we have not been doing the way that we should be doing them, and we need to push that. My goal was for the 4 committee members to each take 3 sections of the book and actually get through it by the end of December. I don't know, Ryan and I are going to have to figure out if we can tackle the whole thing by then.
Well,
but-
we also could, at one of our upcoming meetings, solicit if any members want to
Yes,
help
that's
out and
very
join the
true.
committee. Because we are bundles of fun, so they would
We
want to.
certainly
Why we
are.
don't hang on more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know exactly. I know. Yeah.
Yep.
So
And I will also
Absolutely.
say, I think sometimes it's hard sometimes to change policy because you have the 3 readings and everything.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes if you look at the policy, it's easier to enact procedures to sometimes and to fulfill the policy.
Right.
So and that takes it out of mask, that takes it out of, you know what I mean? That sometimes says, this is what we have right now. We don't have the manpower or power to change the policy. But what we have is the ability to implement the policy through school committee action.
Right.
So you could, in theory, there's 1,000 policies. You could
Yeah.
take this policy and say, what do we need in Whitman-Hanson to ensure validity of input? What do we need to ensure timelines? And then you make that the procedure. Mm-hmm. That's motioned, as a result of subcommittee.
Yep.
That's motioned to the full committee. And if it goes through, then now that's enacted. Mm-hmm. You could even put it under here, but you haven't touched the policy, which is sometimes broader based on Mass General laws, and you have to go from there. It takes longer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my goal was for us to get through the policies by the end of December so that we could be presenting that, but then we could still be meeting to work on the procedures afterwards
Yeah.
because that was the original charge from the school committee was to address the policies and update them and then move on to creating procedures. So, but this is good. I've got the notes, so we'll go from there. Yes?
Just a question on the public side of things. Building the policy, after we say, these are our policies, then we're gonna go back and build our procedures as to how you execute those policies. Within those procedure pieces, are we able to include consequence for non-adherence? Because I think the struggle is if you don't have consequence to policy, your policy is hollow.
I think that that's something that we can certainly consider going forward. I don't know what consequence you would have for, I don't know what legally the school committee has as a consequence that they can impose upon the superintendent. The superintendent obviously has the ability to impose penalties upon the staff, but I'm not sure beyond that.
And
So,
I'm not either for
Right.
disclosure, it's not that I have the
Right.
answer,
no,
but I feel like posing the question
Yeah.
sure,
at least
absolutely.
gets us to explore it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to contradict myself now than saying that with consequences, but if you're going to go with consequences for policy violation, that should stick with the policy because then that's more in the realm of the school committee itself to create and adhere to policy. When we talk about procedure, that's more of the how to do the
Right.
policy.
Right,
But that would be more subject,
Oh, that's what you're saying,
consequences would be more subject to
Right.
A violation of the policy.
violation
Right, by the
of school
policy.
committee
Yeah.
Right.
policy.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because-
not,
because-
not you missed a
because the
date
super-
or whatever.
Yeah, the superintendent obviously sets the procedure.
Right, procedure.
And then, and if the superintendent sets a procedure that's different than the procedure that they did last year, as long as the policy is being
Right.
followed
Right.
and implemented, I don't want to say the procedure doesn't matter, but there shouldn't, but the policy is what we
Right.
want to make
So the
sure.
policy may then be expanded to
Yeah.
say, there will be markers for effectiveness that are established.
Right.
In the policy.
Yeah.
So that you can refer to that, but I don't know if you can then, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure if this
Well, I
is
think-
posted, somebody will tell me, but I'm not sure if then if procedurally consequences constitute your role.
I can't think, and I think you just, that's what you were saying, Ryan, your realm, and I think you as well, Stephen, you oversee policy, so it would have to be the violation of the policy.
Right.
We,
Right.
the
Administrative.
staff, thank you. What am I?
Right.
We take your policy, we design the procedures, like the AI has the policy, then we might say, how are we going to institute this
Right.
procedurally? And if there's a consequence, then it would go back. We didn't follow our own procedure, it goes back, so therefore it violated the policy, and therefore,
Right.
well,
But-
superintendent.
Consequence can be vague
Yeah.
as
Right,
written.
right, right.
It can be
Nick, you got
up
one?
to and not exceeding X.
Oh, so thank you.
Termination. It can be, if you've gone over your 3-minute public comment, the gavel will come down and you will be asked to stop. Like,
Yeah.
they can be small or
Right.
they can be large, but we also don't want to box ourselves in
Mm-hmm.
to,
That's why the policy needs to be nebulous, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
but it just, but if you don't have any teeth to it,
Correct.
Right.
why follow it?
So when I talk about creating procedure, it's for the school committee pieces of it, not
You wanted
anybody
a procedural
else. So,
handbook. No,
Right.
right. I just want to make sure I'm clear with people.
Right.
I'm not trying for the school committee to dictate
Sure.
how
No, no,
anybody
no,
does
right,
anything
right.
else. I just want us to know, like, when a person resigns, what the procedure
Correct.
is
Yes,
for
yes,
replacing
yes. Sorry,
them.
we're using the same
that
word. Yes.
that type
Right,
of a
right.
thing. So I just want to be clear. We can say, the school committee will create a budget subcommittee annually, which will meet 3 times a year or
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
with the,
Will be
school
passed,
councils and,
Right.
we can do that type of thing in the procedures, but
And because you were talking about, like, that's your procedural handbook you want for school committee.
yes.
Different from, like.
Right,
what we-
absolutely.
Yes, yes,
We
right.
have nothing
Thanks
to
for
do with the
clarifying.
procedure
Correct.
for
Right.
anything other than school committee. In fact, I believe that would probably fall more in the realm of school council with the
Right.
help of the administrators.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for
so,
clarifying.
Thank you. All right, so Regional School District Budget Transfer Authority, I didn't have any problems with any of the lines there or in the funding proposals and applications, again, other than just cleaning it up the language. Investing, I think it would be lovely if we had some money to invest, but at the moment, that's not a scenario that we are in, apparently.
We
We
do
have
actually,
one.
we do actually invest some. I'm not perfect on the whole scenario, but there is pieces that we invest long-term in, I think it's Uni. I think Uni
Oh.
is the fund that we have. And because there are some things that we take money into, we gain interest on it, and then depending on when we use them, there is the ability to do
Oh.
that. That's happened before since I've been here.
I believe the former business manager had actually reported in August that the revenues from that were expected to exceed expectations. I'm not sure I saw that on the budget itself, so that might be something for the budget subcommittee to
I think that
consider.
part of the budget subcommittee is one of the things that I'm trying to gather for you is what are all the revenue
Right,
sources
right,
that
yeah.
can take
Yes,
place?
yes, and if there's a
Work on
bunch
that today.
lumped into Chapter 70, if we could get a breakdown of that, that would be lovely.
There is some, and there's also some that's located in the general ledger, 0001 in Munis, that you'll have for you for that meeting.
Okay. So I am also concerned about DGA, the Regional School District authorized signatures. It says the treasurer and the assistant treasurer are authorized to sign check withdrawals and to sign the appropriate bank forms for the regional school district. There is a Mass General Law affiliated with that as of the last time this was reviewed. However, I know that the district now employs a treasurer, because for the committee, Mrs. Hill is the treasurer and I am the assistant treasurer. So I don't know if this is something that we can eliminate since we,
I think if my memory serves, I think in 2014 was the first time that we were sort of made aware and/or the policy came to be, and I'm not sure the law, but that's when we hired the then person, the first person we had. And we had him for probably 8 years or so. And then we went to the new treasurer that we have. So which basically nullified, from what I've been told, the role on school committee. So most school committees now only have like chair, assistant chair, secretary, I think assistant secretary or whatever, because this law came to be.
okay.
I don't know if this was, when or if this was updated, but the treasurer is someone who is a licensed treasurer through Massachusetts that works with the business office to match funds, especially in cash reconciliation.
So I will double check what the Mass General laws are, whether that's still active or
When I
not.
click on it, it goes to a schedule. It doesn't, you know,
Yeah.
usually when you click on
Okay.
it, it goes to the section,
So
it goes
there's-
to the section
Oh, yeah.
and the
Okay,
law.
so-
I just
so-
clicked on it and it
Yeah,
just,
hearings.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do think that.
So we can probably eliminate
I
that?
do think that that piece is no longer viable in the school
Okay.
committee realm.
That's great. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Next is DH Regional School District bonded employees and officers. Each employee of the school system or school committee member who is assigned the responsibility of receiving and dispensing school funds will be bonded individually or covered by a blanket bond. The cost of the bond will be paid by the district. I believe that's something that should be happening. I'm not sure whether that is something that has been happening.
I will say in the safe, we have a safe in the office that I only became aware of this recently because we were in transition and stuff fell to me. That there are people who are listed that are bonded. The treasurer is bonded. The former business directors have been bonded. And then there was a former staff accountant that was bonded. But everyone who handles funds, technically, it should be bonded according to this.
Okay.
That then begets the question of, like, I'm a third grader going to a field trip, and I'm giving my teacher, you know, the check, and where does that go?
Yeah.
But from a district standpoint, there have been in the past, the proper people who have been bonded according to this.
All right.
So the question is that by law, anyone that handles money for the district has to be bonded?
It
So
says each employee of the school member who's assigned the responsibility of receiving and dispensing. So that's the, like, you might get, I don't want to use names because you're recording, but you might get the secretary at the local school.
Right.
Who says, I'm taking the money because the third grade is going to the Roger Williams Park Zoo.
Yeah.
And then there's a process that says, I take the money, my school, the account, and then it goes to central office. The only person that goes to the bank for us and receives checks and money is the treasurer. They go to the bank, they assign it, to the funds that it needs to go to, and then we go there. That person is bonded.
Yeah.
So that's the gray.
Yeah, the question, because you think at a certain point, when you think about things like, like your field trip example, the money might go from the kid's hand to the third grade teacher's hand who
Right.
brings it up
Right,
to the
and then it's
secretary's
like-
hand.
Right.
And then it's like the idea that all of those people have to be bonded because they're
Right.
physically handling
Right.
a check. It seems like onerous.
Right.
In a way that,
But I think the dispensing of it is
Right.
the key.
I
because-
think
Yeah.
it's the receiving and dispensing.
Yeah,
It's
right.
that
Yeah.
and.
Yeah, that's
I think
the-
that, yeah.
Right.
It's not and or, it's and
Right,
dispensing,
and
yeah.
dispensing.
Yeah.
So that usually falls to central office, treasurer, like business director, and/or staff accountant.
Right.
Okay. So I am wondering, after listening to Mr. Hyde last night talk about the people who have the ability access to Munis,
Right.
if that would make sense to have it be because they're the ones that are entering the POs and,
Right, but that's
making
not
sure.
money.
That's, okay.
You know what
so,
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm talking about,
Yeah,
I'm talking about,
money.
like, so
Yeah.
for example, you might have a retiree who has a dental plan, and that retiree doesn't do online, so they still might do a check. So that check comes into the office, gets assigned to the treasurer, a check, goes to the bank, and then it goes into Munis. But Munis is not, like, there's not money that's
Right.
going into Munis. So like, if there's cash for cash, it goes to treasurer, we go from there.
Oh, so it says funds.
Yeah, it says school funds.
So I'm wondering if we need clarity around
Yeah.
money versus
Yeah,
check.
you'd have to get somebody
Because
smarter.
that's a good point
Yeah.
that
You
you're
have to
bringing
get
up,
somebody smarter
Stephanie.
than me to answer that.
Yeah. That would be the difference, because if you're right, if it's people that receive checks, that could potentially be more individuals involved.
Well, and even if it was something about, over $50 or something, and then you don't have to necessarily worry about the kids going to the, I don't know. I'll check what
That's a
the,
good one, though. That's
Yeah,
a great
the threshold
catch.
makes sense,
Yeah.
because, my daughter had to pay her Spanish National Honor Society dues today, it was $15.
Right.
Yeah.
That's.
right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
should that person be,
Trip to Europe.
I mean,
Right.
doing the Europe trip too, thank God, that's just a monthly pull
Oh,
from
okay.
our account,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's, it's a big difference between the monthly amount that we're
Right.
paying for her trip to Europe this April versus her Spanish Honor Society
Right.
dues.
All right, the next one is DI, fiscal accounting and reporting. Superintendent will be ultimately responsible for receiving and properly accounting for all funds of the school system. The accounting system used will conform with state requirements and with good accounting practices, providing for the appropriate separation of accounts, funds, and special monies. The school committee will receive periodic financial statements from the superintendent showing the financial condition of the school department. Such other financial statements as may be determined necessary by either the committee or the administration will be presented as found desirable. Again, I'm fine with that. I just don't think we've been following it, and I think that we need to be better about enforcing, and maybe that adding of consequences needs to be something that we look at doing, because
We're dealing.
And unfortunately, this kind of policy is the crux of what we're dealing with right now as a district.
right.
And so we almost need to take this as a foundational policy and tighten it up. When we use words like periodic, when times are good, yeah, great, periodic
Right.
works. But right now, we almost need monthly reviews as opposed to periodic. So it can still be at any point in the month, but you have a little bit more regularity to it. And then when building in, once we're all said and done, by building in that standard review time of policies, when we get back to a place when times are good, we can go back to periodic.
Well, I mean, I will say.
But also, I think, like, I don't think that there's a harm of, like, even keeping it, because I think the sense I get is that there have been like governors in the past that have, and then when things are good, they kind of fall away, and then you don't know that they fall. That's how you. So it's like the idea that maybe keeping it, like, not having to think about, like, well, maybe when things get better, we'll switch it back to a looser thing.
Yeah.
Maybe just keep it as, because when things are good, and if you're getting a monthly report and everything looks good, then it's an easy part for the school committee just to check off. Yeah.
Sorry, standard operating procedure,
Yeah.
then you just do it. But-
Yeah.
So perhaps we change the word periodic to monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would almost think the school committee will receive financial statements at least one meeting per month from the superintendent showing the financial condition of the school department.
Question.
And that way, yes.
Would you just put, instead of at least one meeting per month, to just at least monthly? The
Okay.
only reason why I say that is what happens if the pipe bursts? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't have that, but you still know you can send it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Okay.
you'd still
Right.
receive it, but when you put at least at
At a
one
month,
meeting per month.
Right, yeah, if
That's constrictive.
Because I also think we, for example, don't typically meet in July.
Right.
But we could still get, as school committee members,
You
a
still get
report
a
emailed to
drop.
us.
Okay.
So that we don't have to have it at a meeting.
Sure, that sounds great.
So if something goes crazy in July, and there's not a meeting, we don't miss it,
Right.
because it wasn't a meeting.
Right.
And I don't know.
Okay,
I have to
Yeah,
extricate myself.
yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you
That's
very
okay.
much,
Thank you very
George,
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it fits, probably doesn't, policy-wise, but as someone who was within the audience when all of the finances are being discussed, we've got to get a screen.
Yeah,
We've
I-
got to get a screen, and it's got to be projected.
right.
Yeah.
I did ask the chair for that, and I think this is all well-intentioned. She was like, oh, we're going to be back in the library. So, I know, but I think her intent and purpose was we were going to be back in the library after that November 5th meeting, because I asked for that, because I think, it might have been you, someone did mention that having those numbers projected. I go, that's a good idea, we need to have that, because I think that the people in the audience can't see it, and they're just listening to it. It's very difficult, and so I agree with, so I think having something like that.
You could have a QR code with a link to those documents. And then, because everybody's coming in with their phone, scan the QR code, and then as they're sitting there, they can do
They can
that.
scroll through
So
it.
Regardless of what venue you are in.
Yeah,
The data is accessible to everyone in the room.
yeah.
And I think that also goes back to the need of building that transparency and
Right.
trust with the
I-
public, that
But-
they can get it.
Right, I think the QR code is like that. That's a good idea. That's obviously like the policy would be that we would provide the data to the public.
Right.
And then so if when the library, sometimes in the library, we can just project it on the screen like we
Right.
usually do.
Yeah.
And then if it's a library, we end up in the Performing Arts Center and we're not going to have access to the, projection or it's going to make because obviously I think the last couple times, I don't think any of those meetings were posted for the Performing Arts Center. They were all moved to the Performing Arts Center because of the volume of people that came. So the idea of, but a QR code can be generated in, seconds.
you're in.
Right, and then, and then, but I think the idea is having it specify that the data will be information will be provided to the public, and then the venue and the circumstances will dictate how that happens. It
Yep.
wouldn't be necessarily in the policy that it would be a QR code in the,
Because even yesterday, just send crews up. You might not have even been able to get a screen down.
Yeah.
Because there's a set for the play this week.
Yeah.
And you don't want to disrupt that because kids are working hard on that.
Yeah.
But some sort of visual representation
Yeah.
that the public can have access to.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Go a
Yep.
long way.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't think this was going to.
Well, I guess the idea that we were going to do 4 of these today is probably
Yeah, I guess,
was
I guess.
ambitious.
I'm asking too
No.
much.
No. It's great. No,
That's good.
I'd rather take the time and do the and have this
And
discussion
is
out.
probably the most important one right now.
Well,
Okay.
yes, that was kind of why I did it first. I probably should have let Ryan do it since he's the budget subcommittee.
I don't wanna-
but-
I think you gave me a choice of what to pick, and I picked this one. So.
Okay, yeah. All right, so on DIA system of accounts, the only question that I had is down at the bottom, it says the school committee shall provide fidelity bonds for school employees responsible for accounting or for handling internal funds. And I'm just curious if we actually do that.
Yeah.
Is that something, Nikki,
find
that
out.
you can
Yep.
check?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Some things I had written assistant or superintendent because it says superintendent or designee, but I've learned designee is the appropriate thing, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. All right, regional school district audits, I have no comments on that. Purchasing, DJ, which is purchasing, one of the things that it says, the bottom is school purchases will be made only on official purchase orders approved for issuance by the appropriate unit head and signed by the superintendent, with such exceptions as may be made by the latter for emergency purposes. So I guess that's another thing that I have a question on, like, does the superintendent sign every order, every invoice, every PO, or is the superintendent signing the warrant itself?
Yeah, and the superintendent, or it's usually or designee, because he doesn't sign every,
Okay.
or in this case, he.
Sounded like last night.
He went through the procedure of how
Yeah.
purchase orders go. That
Yeah.
it starts. The teachers put
Yeah.
put a requisition in or a request, and I can't remember the exact words that they used, but there was a system that he described
And-
how it happens.
Yeah.
So the idea, but you're right. I'm going to guess that the superintendent is not signing every purchase order,
Recently,
but he's.
because of the situation.
But yeah, but I think,
That
but I think the idea of his designee, like that, he would have someone that would be,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
yeah,
Right.
I was, one particular part of the PO process that I found that I wish would have had more question on last night was that the PO is then reviewed against the budget line item for funds availability within the budget line item. And if we look at that at face value, if that were happening, we would not have a deficit, because at some point that budget line item would have read 0 and the PO wouldn't have been approved. So it makes me question, as a member of the public, is that policy even being followed, or are we just signing every PO that comes across our desk?
right.
And I can say that when we come in for warrants, to look at the warrants, I know we spend a lot of time looking at those warrants before we sign them, and we ask a lot of questions before we sign them.
Right.
So I think I just want to clarify on this, whether it's each order, which each invoice, each PO that gets signed, or if it's just a warrant that gets signed.
Fair.
And I do think,
And-
yeah, what was explained last night has been tightened because of.
Right.
But to your point, prior practice, what was it? And
Yeah.
then what do you guys want to see more on
Right.
the procedurally
Do
moving forward?
you do you have any thoughts at the moment, or you want to think about it some more?
I mean, I think I'd want to think about it. I think, and again, I think just in fairness to what was Kathleen brings up last night, I mean, I think by the point we got to the discussion of the purchase orders, I think the room was a little bit hot. And I don't know how many people were, well, obviously Kathleen was listening, but not a lot of people were being, there was a lot of noise and a lot of kind of sense of, I think, we were trying to, I think they were trying to get to the rest of the public comment because there was. So I think that was, he was he was definitely rushing through that part because I think he could sense the energy in the room. So I think it's something we need to revisit in a different, not in a school committee meeting, but in a different setting, like not at 10:45 at that point at night.
It needs to be its own line item.
Yeah.
With, a real level set of expectations. Prepared questions from those in the school committee that you've had time to review what the process is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that you can question the actual execution
Right.
of what's happening versus.
Right, exactly.
what's written.
The only issue is, again, the procedural stuff. We only control the superintendent. We don't control the superintendent,
But
but the school
we
committee
oversee
only
the superintendent,
oversees the
yeah.
superintendent.
Yeah.
So
To ask,
Yes.
how did a $0 funds
Right.
available line item
Sure.
get approved PO?
Yeah.
So purchasing authority, I didn't have any questions about. On DJE procurement requirements, the third paragraph down says, when bidding procedures are used, bids will be advertised appropriately. I would like us to define that a little bit better. Like, what does it mean to advertise appropriately? In 3 different places? Or I think we need to find some way to do that. I also think it's interesting because it says that in the next paragraph down, bids will be opened in public at the time specified. So all bids are supposed to be submitted in sealed envelopes addressed to the superintendent and plainly marked with the name of the bid and the time of the bid opening. And then bids will be opened in public at the time specified, and all bidders will be invited to be present. I have the feeling that probably hasn't happened in a very long time. And I am concerned about it, and this might be more of a budget thing, but I am personally concerned about the fact that there have been items that only one bid has come in. And do you really stop there, or do you try to push for, having some competitive nature? So, but I would like to define how advertised appropriately.
I think that's the point. I mean, I would say, I'm not saying any specific example, and we always have to, but I do think there are instances where sometimes you might not get the 3 bids you're looking for. And that's, so I think the idea of putting more of a concrete on the advertising appropriately, what that actually means, so that it's not clear it's clear that you've put it out in a way that anyone that is interested in bidding is aware of it and would be able to bid, versus saying there has to be X number of bids, because there might not necessarily, if for example we want 3 bids and we get 2 and we just can't get a third one, like everything just kind of gets gummed up. And I think because that probably does happen sometimes. Now there's other times where a bid comes in and that's the bid you wanted, or that's so maybe if you're the person, you kind of like, well, I know this place will do it, so I'll kind of like half-heartedly post it. So I think where we want the policy to be really concrete is on how the advertising happens, as opposed to, because you're right, appropriately is very vague,
Right.
and that puts it up to the individual, and so the individual, hypothetical person in the future, right, decides like, I really want, my friend's company to get this. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to go to my MySpace page, and post it there. Yeah, and then put it and it's like, well, I posted it. Like, it's just on a social media site that no one uses anymore. I put it on my Friendster account, and then my cousin was the only one that bid. It's like, that's the thing, is I think being more specific about that part, because, like I said, I do think that I imagine there are times, given some of the natures of some of these vendors and stuff, that you might not get a whole lot of bids for a particular thing because it's a very specialized thing, or no one wants to do it for the amount that, or whatever. So it's like, I think that's where you put that would be my take, is that's where you put the the real emphasis and the real specificity on it, because
Okay.
then,
Do we have a policy on nepotism within BITS?
Not within the finance piece. I don't know about beyond
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but.
no.
I mean, I think that, I mean, I don't know if that,
Something to consider
yeah,
adding at the end of the day, you know.
yeah, because that's, I mean, obviously, that's part of the state ethics and everything like that, but we need to have it,
I
you
know
know.
there is some sort of a sign, there's a paperwork that has to get signed, so,
If
you know.
have any sort
If
of
you
Yeah.
have
connection
any
to
sort of
somebody. Yeah,
connection
yeah.
to
But at the
somebody.
same point,
And it has to be
I can
approved.
sign the paper, but it doesn't mean that I haven't.
Well,
Right.
I get it, but,
Favoritism.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, yeah.
Because you could,
Yeah.
yeah, you could sign a paper and then where that paper goes, it goes in a file somewhere or whatever, and you did what you were supposed to do.
the box.
I checked the box of noting but if you don't, if it's not, you know, kind of openly known that you've done that, like, it's just as well not, it's the same as not signing the disclosure at all, if you don't actually make it available, the disclosure available. So that's something that, you know.
Bring up the
Yeah.
nepotism, perhaps it's a situation of, should there be any nepotism relationship, a minimum requirement of 2 bids is necessary. So you're not saying we need 3 to 5 or this or that, but I can't just get a bid from my brother-in-law.
Right.
And not have somebody I'm not related to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
bidding
Definitely
as well.
that,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
something to just
But,
ensure that you're not just getting it from your buddies down the street.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and it definitely, you're right, I think, it comes up in like the ethics that we have the state ethics, but
Right.
I'm wondering, to your point, I think that's a great suggestion, is like, but where do we see that reflected here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we have to do it like as state employees, but where is that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, file DK, Regional School District Payment Procedures. I am very concerned about this because we're not following our own policy again. All claims for payment from the school district's funds will be processed in accordance with regulations developed by the superintendent. Payment will be authorized against invoices properly supported by approved purchase orders with properly submitted vouchers or in accordance with salaries and salary schedules approved by the school committee. As an operating procedure, the committee will receive monthly lists of bills, warrants, for payment from school department funds. The lists will be certified as correct and approved for payment by the school committee or by a subcommittee of no less than 3 members. So we either need a subcommittee for the warrants of at least 3 members, or every member of the school committee should be reviewing the warrants and signing them. Actual invoices, statements, and vouchers will be available for inspection by the school committee. The superintendent will be responsible for ensuring that budget allocations are observed and that total expenditures do not exceed the amount allocated in the budget for all items. In my research, I also found out that the regional school committee may designate any one of its members for the purpose of signing payroll warrants and accounts payable warrants to allow for the release of checks. Provided, however, that member shall make available to the board at its next meeting a record of such actions. So, again, if we want to do this, that's fine, but we need to, either it's all or we have to specify who.
Right.
And it's got to be the same people. Mask does recommend an alternate, so.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
know,
so it's like, yeah, I think
so-
that's,
A three-member warrant subcommittee with an alternate of.
Yeah.
And.
so that, because in the
You don't
event
wanna
of.
hold it up, right?
Right, yeah, if someone is ill, if someone is,
Unavailable,
you know,
right.
or, yeah, we just had a resignation this
Right.
morning, so it's like, all of a sudden, if that the warrants are going to be signed next week, we're not going to, we might not necessarily meet, if something
Right.
happens in between the 2 weeks that we have a school committee meeting, we might get a chance to appoint a third person. If that person is taken ill, they resign, they're traveling
So the.
abroad, so I think, I mean, again, this would be something obviously the whole committee would decide. I agree that the way that we do it now is kind of ad hoc. I mean,
Right.
granted, it tends to end up being the same 3 people, but we're not designated, right? 'Cause
Right.
it's usually me and Beth, because we're around during the day, and I know Glenn comes by, and that, so a lot of times it's the 3 of us that have done it, but we're not designated. We're just the 3 people that get there first, which is not
Right.
the way it should be done. And my get, and again, this would be something obviously for the whole committee to discuss, but the idea of, since I like having the idea of having both of those, having all of those, like that, the 3-person or or one designee who then reports to it. And then the school committees, as they're constituted each year, could decide if they want to do it a 3-person, so then it's, or one, but that there's a set policy.
Well, it's just the food services and this payroll warrants and accounts payable warrants, but not food services, which is weird. So I'll look into that a little bit more. But one of the things that they did recommend at Mask is that the chair and vice chair be de facto alternates on all subcommittees, and that way,
Yeah, I think
you
that's-
have that as a.
That's not a bad idea at all, to just, so then,
Oh, that's,
because then it's, because presumably the chair,
Is in for the long haul.
is in for the long haul and is,
nice.
and then so it's not. I think when you're a chair or you're a vice chair, there's more expectations on you as part of that committee. So therefore, whereas opposed to if you think about I'll say Phil. Phil's like, I'll be the alternate, and he's like a guy, and he never has to do it, and all of a sudden he gets called in. The idea is like, I got to go do that. There's not whereas the chair and the vice chair have expectations that they the chair goes into the central office on a regular basis, right? So it's not. It wouldn't be something where all of a sudden, like poor Phil, who just
Right.
thought he got an easy gig of being the alternate, all of a sudden gets pressed into service, and he's not.
Yeah.
He's not even around or something.
Resume
So-
building, man, come on.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't want to. I didn't want to use any current member's name, and I feel like Phil's a safe.
Poor Phil.
Yeah.
I know, poor Phil. Yeah.
So I understand, we can certainly make sure that, the committee wants to continue with this. However, at the moment, until it gets voted one way or the other, we should be following this list, so.
So that and I don't know the policy in front of me, but the policy is that So what we need to do then is we need to set up
A policy, a warrant
a
subcommittee.
warrant subcommittee at.
Your current policy's already there, yeah.
Yeah, it's already there, and we don't have one. And so that we need to at least set that up, and then we can add things to this policy and then put that to the full committee. But you're right, we can't,
Yeah.
add it, and then, like I said, it says we have to have a subcommittee. So we create a subcommittee, and then if we decide that we want to add things to the policy later,
Right,
we can do that.
yeah.
And like I said, I like the idea of having those different options so that the committees that exist can, as long as there's a policy, and then that they're following that policy. So it's as opposed to again, it's very ad hoc now.
So
I think but because there might be some times where we know that, maybe there's someone on the committee in one constituted that is, really, is maybe an accountant on his own, or maybe he has a lot of experience. It'd be like Phil. Maybe Phil's the guy, right? Phil is really good. It'd be great if Phil, if you want to do this and you want to report to us, that would be. Then that gives the committee. But I think the idea is that we're not following the policy.
right.
So then we need to start following the policy, but then I think also creating a flexibility within the policy for future school committees so that they can,
Either or, yeah.
either or, because I think that's
fine.
because some ways might work better for some constitutions of committees than others, but they have to be following that policy.
Right. So I will say that I think that one of the reasons this is a really important policy is because one of the last times that we had to sign warrants, I came in and I spent an hour and a half going through warrants.
Yeah.
And I had a list of questions, and I sent them the questions, and they said they'd get back to me within a couple of days, but they were anxious to get the warrant signed, and they just put it out, hey, who can come by and sign this? And I was a little insulted that I'd spent an hour and a half, and then because
Right.
they weren't getting me the answers, they were going to do it. So I think
Right.
that
I think you're
this is why
right. Yeah. No,
we
I think
have
you're
this.
No, so I'm gonna ask Dad.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of
They
seemed
brought
like
Phil
it.
in.
Right?
They brought
did.
Phil in for
So,
that.
darn him. Okay, on DKC expense reimbursements, the second paragraph says whether, or when official travel by a personally owned vehicle is authorized, mileage payment will generally be made at the rate currently approved by the committee. I don't know of any place where the committee sets the rate. So I'm concerned about.
Governed by state
It
taxes,
is,
just use
it's
that.
governed, yeah, so that's why, I don't know, I'm curious about that one, I'll write that down, Stephanie. Because we get the mileage reimbursements like set.
Yeah, okay, so I just said like, what is the rate, or where
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
referenced, like, you know, according to
But-
the mass.
state-
Maybe if you ever wanted to go
Right.
higher.
Yeah.
Right, so I think,
Because that's typical, like sometimes when you're working for a business, their rate might be higher
Yeah,
because
among
they're
this-
trying
yeah.
to, you know.
Yeah, entice people to come, yeah, yeah.
I really want to go
Right.
higher, but
Yeah.
I think you're right, otherwise, I know we do the mileage reimbursement, like if it's, that's what we use, the state, the
Yeah.
approved
Yeah.
mileage reimbursement, so.
all right, so it's 5:37.
Yes, I do have to
And I
go to
know-
another appointment, so.
Yes,
We, I guess we'll
I
hold off on.
apologize.
That's all right.
So,
No, I think this is good to go through these,
great.
like, I mean, it's not like we were like, you know, playing pinochle or anything like that. We actually went through the policies and talked about
Right.
them in a substantive way. So I think
Yeah.
it was actually more interesting than I thought it was gonna be, to be frank. So I think that that's,
People will
Yeah.
be thrilled with the recording, thank you.
Policy junkie is not a bad thing.
yeah, I know, yeah.
So, okay, so Ryan, if we're going to postpone the review of support services and also facilities and instructional programs, because we don't have those people here and we're out of time today. The next thing is to assign sections for the next meeting. Would you be interested in choosing from one of these lovely sections of,
Well, should we
options?
go through the ones that are listed that we passed over?
we should, but I'm just trying to get us to go through, some of these are actually really short, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make it so that I'm going to keep going through the policy book because I want to keep making progress, even if it, you know, there might be some weeks that we get through, you
Yeah.
know, 3 or 4 or more. So I just didn't know if you wanted to take another section or if your week this week is crazy and, you know, you'd want to wait until next time.
Well, I mean, I think, so next time I'll do the support services, and then, like I said, I'll take another one if you want.
Okay, is there a particular section you might be interested in taking?
Ladies' choice,
Ladies' choice.
whatever you'd like me to do, whatever one you didn't want to do.
Oh, I'm not doing that. That's not nice.
Facilities
Alright.
management's free, take it.
Well, that was actually one that Mr. DeGravio was originally going to do. General school administration feels like a good one
winner.
for you, and it's not too big. How about that?
Okay.
It's a winner.
CM, I don't know. That's over half the alphabet right there.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I would like to call the meeting, or ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
There's no one to
There's no
second.
one to second, apparently, so I can,
I guess we can just, I don't think we need to, actually, I don't think we need to motion to adjourn. I think you can just kick us out,
Okay.
I think.
all right.
I don't know.
adjourn this meeting. Get the heck out of here.